All right, let's get busy. Elite Performance with Dr. Brad. I'm Dr. Brad. Yes, we're on a little bit late this evening. However, better late than never. Today, we're going to be talking about how to influence change in the lives of others. I had a very unique question that was posed to me recently. I did a virtual lecture or a virtual talk recently to a solid group of guys, and someone asked me, they were like, you know what? I'm starting to experience change in my own life. I'm starting to achieve some of my goals, and I'm starting to show up as a better husband, father, business owner. But their question was, how do I influence this change in the lives of those around me, specifically my wife, my children? And I thought it was a very unique question. And so I thought it was very interesting. And I figured this would be something that if he had a question about, a lot of other fellas would have questions about. As always, like I mentioned before, the podcast is really for everyone. The messages are for everyone. I specifically work with men, but and I do that by helping men win in their fitness, family, and faith without sacrificing their current career or business success. So we're talking about how to influence change and really how to influence significant change in the lives of others. I know sometimes people may get frustrated with trying to change other people. And I don't know if that's the way to go about it. We're going to be talking about how to really do it effectively today. But the challenge is that for those around us, we really do want the best for those who are around us, our wife, our spouse, our children, our friends, the people that we really care about. We want the best for them. We want the best for ourselves, right? We want to achieve our goals and really win at a high level in our health, our wealth, and our relationships. But we want the same for those around us. We want the same for others. We want the best for others. We want those that we know and love to be happy, healthy, and wealthy. But the challenge is sometimes it seems as though we may want it more for them than they want for themselves. We've heard people mention that before. Like, man, I want it more. You can't want it, more for them than they want it for themselves. Well, I believe everybody really wants to try to be the best version of themselves, right? But the question is, how can we influence that? How can you as an individual actually influence the greatness in the life of someone else? How can you show up so consistent and show up in such a grand way in your own life that it brings about change in the lives of others? And I believe this is possible. I've been able to witness this in my own life. But we get frustrated. Well, the challenge is that we get impatient. We get impatient in the change in others. We become very critical, and we get that critical eye if they're not doing something in a certain time frame, or if we see that they continue to make mistakes, or if we see that they just continue to make bad choices or decisions, and we get frustrated. We're almost like, why can't you just get your act together? And it could be in any area of someone else's life that we know and love. It could be in their health. It could be in their wealth. It could be in their relationships. Or it could be in some goal that we really want to see them win in. It could be some goal that they want to see the ideal version of themselves in, and we want to see that for them. And the reality is sometimes it gets to a point where sometimes we want to give up on them. It's just how it is. We get that frustrated. It's just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm done trying to talk to them. I'm done trying to help. Because they either keep falling off the wagon, or they're just, the change isn't coming in a certain period of time. And what I realize is that, oftentimes we're actively trying to help change someone, or we're actively trying to influence someone to achieve a certain goal or to be a certain ideal version of themselves. Um, but the difficulty comes in this is that it's difficult for us to help someone see the ideal version of themselves when we have yet to really believe in the ideal version of ourselves. I'm gonna say that again. It is very difficult for us to try to influence the ideal version of someone else in someone else when we haven't really believed in the ideal version of ourselves. And oftentimes we will want to give up on someone else because uh, we've oftentimes given up on ourselves when it comes to some area in our life that we've truly struggled in. And, you know, it is very difficult for us to give something to someone else that we have yet to receive. And what I mean by that is, so I always give this analogy. I can't give you $10 if I don't have $10. I can't give you money that I don't have or that I have yet to receive. Well, this works very similarly in terms of grace, forgiveness, even belief. See, it's hard for me to transfer belief into you if I don't currently have belief. And we're trying to believe big for someone else when we have yet to believe big for ourselves. We can't give something that we haven't received. We can't give grace, unmerited favor, and just say, hey, listen, I get it. I understand. I forgive you. When we've yet to forgive ourselves, when we're so critical of ourselves with mistakes that we've either made in the past or that we continue to actively make, we're so critical of ourselves, we will then pass that critical eye, that critical nature on to someone else. So that is one thing that we can pass on because that is something that we have received, is that critical eye of our own selves. We make mistakes and we're critical of ourselves, and we often pass that on to that person that we care about. And so, again, it's very difficult to offer the grace you don't have. It's very difficult to offer it's very difficult to offer the grace that you haven't received. It's very difficult to offer the forgiveness that you have yet to receive. It's easy to give the critical eye and the condemnation to others if that's what you do to yourself. So if you find yourself being very critical of other people, more oftentimes than not, you're probably very critical of yourself. And so here's the truth, is that we have and we can have a dramatic influence on the lives of others and the results of others. We can literally have a dramatic influence on the circumstances of other people and the results that they're going after in life. But check this out. It doesn't happen with persuasion. It happens with self-perception. I'll say that again. The way we go about this is not by trying to persuade them or convince them or with force really trying to, make them be something different. It actually comes from self-perception. Your self-perception, how you perceive yourself, is going to influence their direction. So your self-perception, not theirs, your self-perception sets the direction of their circumstances. Isn't that crazy? And you're probably thinking, like, what are you talking about? How does this work? Like, in essence, what I'm saying is this, is that how you see yourself is exactly how you're going to see other people. How you self-perceive, how you see yourself is exactly how you're going to see other people. So if you're critical of yourself, you probably find yourself being very critical of other people, and mistakes you won't have much grace for mistakes or much forgiveness. It's just going to come out, right? But how we see ourselves is exactly how we will see other people. Now, I'm going to give you a quick story. Well, before I give you the story, let me kind of review. So, in order for anyone to change a circumstance, right, or to achieve a goal, in order for anyone to change their circumstances and their health, wealth, or relationships, or achieve a goal in any one of those areas, that there must be a change of behavior. There must be a change of consistent behavior. You're going to have to work out. You're going to have to show up different in the relationship. You're going to have to, do some things to create wealth or do better in your business. You're going to have a difference in behavior. But in order for the behavior to change, there has to be a change in the belief. And when I say the belief, this is the self-perception, your identity, how you identify yourself. So in essence, in order for there to be any type of change in a circumstance in anyone's life, your life or people around you, there must be a change in self-perception. Okay. But like I said before, how we see ourselves is how we're going to see others. So oftentimes we will project onto others the way we perceive ourselves. So imagine this. If that means how you currently perceive yourself, you're going to project onto other people, and that's going to influence their self-perception, which will therefore influence their results and circumstances. Right? So again, in order for us to change circumstances, there has to be a change of how we see ourselves. But how we see ourselves is influenced by the way other people around us see us. So the way you really help to change the circumstances of other people and the results of other people is you must first see yourself different so that what you project onto them will be different, can be positive, right? Can be encouraging, can be forgiving, can be, offering grace, can be belief because you believe in yourself. You can now project that onto them. So back to the story, quick story. So I had a conversation with a parent recently, and they were talking about how they were talking to their daughter and they were kind of getting into it. And this parent didn't believe that the daughter was telling the truth, right? And so this parent said that the daughter basically was like, just asked him, say, "Do you trust me?" And the parent said, "No, I don't trust you." And as I was talking to this person about the situation, and we were talking about self-perception and how we project that onto other people and how that ends up influencing, the results in their life, she came to the understanding that the reason why she said she didn't trust her daughter was because she knows that she can't trust herself in certain situations. She said, "You know what? I know me. Check this out." She said, "I know myself and that I'm not very trustworthy." That's how she perceives herself. So therefore, she told her daughter, "Nope, I don't trust you." I mean, so think about that. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Self-perception, can't trust herself, now gets projected onto someone else. Now you can imagine how that alone is going to influence how the child makes decisions now if she begins to think that she's untrustworthy, right? Another thing is, for me, for the longest period of time, and it's something I still got to check myself, is I'd be very critical of my kids when they would make mistakes, right? We could be eating dinner and they could drop something on the floor and it would just, I used to erupt. They make mistakes around the house, may even make mistake in sports. And I would be so critical of them when they would make mistakes. Because guess what? I was critical of myself and wouldn't forgive myself when I made mistakes. So it came off onto them. It came out onto them. Lack of forgiveness, lack of grace, right? But it wasn't until I changed my perception of myself. And check this out. It's not until we can begin to see that we can begin to see the ideal version of ourselves despite the mistakes that we make. See, then we can begin to see the ideal version of others despite the mistakes that they make. But we can't see the ideal version in others. We cannot, again, you can't give what you haven't received. So you can't see the ideal version of other people if you have yet to begin to see the ideal version of yourself. You can't offer that experience if you haven't experienced it for yourself. You can't give that if you haven't begun to receive the best version of yourself. See, when you can begin to perceive the best version of yourself despite the mistakes, you can give it to other people. So when we can see that, yes, we made mistakes, but we aren't mistakes, big difference. See, I may have made a mistake, but I'm not a mistake, right? Then we can see the same for others. When we can see ourselves the way God sees us, then we can do the same for others. And so here's what's crazy when you think about it. So God says, listen, I see you for who I made you to be, not the decisions you've made. Right? He says, I see you for who I've made you to be, which is in my image and likeness. And I've separated you from your sins as far as the east is from the west. So I don't look at you based on what you've done. I look at you based on who you really are, even if you can't see that. And we can begin to see that for our own selves, that our identity is separate from the decisions that we've actually made. Our real, true identity of our ideal self is actually different from the decisions and some of the mistakes that we've made in the past. And even in the future, we can begin to see that for other people, specifically those around us, our spouses and our children and our friends and our coworkers. And so now we can begin to change the world around us and even the circumstances in other people's lives, because we can project onto them that ideal self that we can now begin to see in ourselves. See, now we become change agents, but it doesn't happen by trying to force somebody like, woman, you're supposed to be reading that Bible. Why you ain't doing it? Or telling our kids, you're supposed to be doing this, that, and the other. Because it's not going to happen by persuasion or by force. It's going to happen by our own self-perception. So, again, the way to really influence significant change in others starts with us first. Starts with you, the person listening to this. You want people around you to change? You want circumstances to change? You want people to start hitting certain goals, the things that you want the best in life for other people? You want to see that stuff happen? It's going to begin with you. It begins with you starting to perceive yourself in your ideal way, in your ideal self that you were made to be by God, the way God sees you. And here's the thing, I've been able to witness this in my own life, and I wasn't even trying. See, I knew some things had to change because I was at a point in my life where I've described before, I was outwardly successful, but secretly stuck, right? Winning in one area of life in my career and business, but all coming at the cost of my family, faith, fitness, trying to figure out, like, is this it, man? This can't be it. And not fulfilling my potential as a man because of that. and I had to change. And as I began to start to really receive the truth of who I am in terms of my identity and begin to see my ideal self, begin to see myself the way God sees me, guess what started to happen? My wife said, you're different. Like things are different. Something's different. Like things are changing. Like you're changing. And before I knew it, not because I said, you know what, maybe you should start doing what I'm doing, right? Which is something I would do in the past. Eventually I start seeing her opening up the word. My relationship with my kids changed. I start, they start wanting before we go to bed at night saying, Mom, Dad, will you read the, they have this cool Bible that we bought them called the Action Bible. And it's written like a comic book story. Like some of the drawings were done by the people who actually draw Marvel comics. So it's written in comic book form. So, they get it. They like the action. It's called the Action Bible. So now they want us to read that. We see them doing more acts of kindness. We see them doing this stuff. Now, my kids ain't perfect, and we all still got work to do, right? But the point that I'm making is that I begin to see change in others. Not because I was trying to force it, not because I was trying to persuade it, but because my self-perception began to be projected onto them. That I can see my ideal self, so I can begin to see their ideal self, despite the fact that they might be making mistakes. And therefore, my behaviors now influence them for them to be their best, because I believe that the ability to change is possible. I believe that the ability to realize your ideal self is possible. And so therefore that projects onto them. This is how you change the world. You can't help but see the best in others when you can begin to see and witness and experience the best in yourself. You can't help but to. You can't help but offer grace and forgiveness when you've received it for yourself. That's it. And here's what's crazy. One of the ways that you know that you are changing, one of the ways that you know your self-perception of yourself is changing, is you're just going to start to see people different. Right? Some of the lack of forgiveness or critical eye that you had, you'll start saying, you know what? I get it. Right? That might not be my struggle, but I get struggle. I understand it. But I also believe in the power of change. I believe in the power of the best version of ourselves that exists within all of us. And so if changing the world around us, if influencing the lives of other people to become their best and influencing change in the lives of other people begins with our self-perception, then there's a few things I want you to do. Because here's the deal. There is an ideal self that God created you to be. It's already there. The seed's already planted. For many of us, it's just covered by weeds and a whole bunch of stuff. A lot of us, we feel like the best version of ourselves is something that we're trying to reach toward or work so hard that is far away from us. Well, no, let me just tell you this. Your ideal self is not far away from you. Make this clear. Who you're striving to be is not distant from you. Right? It's already here. So it's not a matter of trying to work to be someone you're not. It's a matter of just chipping away all of the mess that you believe that's on top of what's already in you. Right? It's like a masterpiece, and a sculptor just if you look at a big piece of rock, the sculptor believes the masterpiece is already in there. He just got to chip away at it. Well, we just got to chip away what's already there. It's already in us. Right? So our ideal version of ourselves is already in us. So there's three things that you've got to do to begin to experience it, so that not only you can change your own circumstances, but you can change the circumstances of those people who are around you, your loved ones, and the people who you care about. First thing you got to do is you got to review it. You got to review that ideal self. What I mean by that is you've got to know what God says about you. You've got to know what the truth is. That is one of the reasons why you got to crack open the word. so now you can review it. You got to know who it is that you are. You got to review that. Second thing you got to do is you got to receive it. And I'll tell you this, out of each of these R's that I'm going to give you, this is probably the most critical one, and that we struggle with the most is just simply receiving it. Many of us are just feel like we got to try so hard. It's this difficult thing that we have to do. And I get it, because for so long I thought that was like, I got to work so hard at being somebody that I don't feel like I'm not, or that I've lost hope in who I was, right? But the reality is that it's not hard work. It's already been given. It's literally already been given. And so it's more a matter of reception, not trying to be convinced of something that you're not. It's just literally opening the heart to receive that with which is already there. So as you review it, you then need to receive it, not resist it. Many of us want to resist it because for so long we've behaved in a way that is outside of this ideal self of ours. So we want to focus on what we've seen in the past and what we currently see. But we have to receive it instead of resist that truth. Review it, receive it, don't resist it. And then the last one is you got to remind yourself of it every single day. You got to remind yourself of that ideal self that's in you every single day. Because here's what's cool, man. As you experience transformation, as you experience the ideal self, the world around you can't help but change. The world around you can't help but change. It's like taking the lid off of a light. See, the light exists and shines, but if it's covered by a lid, it cannot illuminate. It cannot provide light for everyone else. And for many of us right now, we're in a situation where that light is there, but it's covered by a lid. And so therefore no one can see it. We can't see it. It's been covered up by past mistakes and all of the mess. But see, as you do that work of those 3 R's, as you review it, you receive that ideal self, and you remind yourself of it, you take the lid off, and that light can now shine. And when the light shines, the world changes. Everybody gets influenced who's near the light. So I want you to imagine, I literally want you to imagine what it would feel like for you to be able to experience transformation in your own life, in your own health, in your own business and wealth, in your own relationships, but to also be so impactful from that self-perception that you've now started to realize of your ideal self, that everywhere you go, you're a light and have significant influence on the lives of others and the lives of those around you. And by the way, fellas, this is what we were built. This is what we were built for, is impact. This is what we were built for, was to impact the world around us, particularly in a positive way. So remember, influencing the lives of others won't happen by persuasion. It'll happen by you focusing on self-perception of that ideal self. All right.